with us tonight. My name is Doug Peterson, Executive Director with Saskatchewan Soccer Association. I'll just get through the logistics here and just remind people to keep themselves muted and help us with the sound quality. We'd appreciate it if everybody take the time to look at this item number 2 and rename yourself accordingly. So use the rename button. First name, last name at member organization helps us identify who's in the room. Use the comment box throughout the day, and Eden and Nicole will be watching for that as we go along. And also, if you want to get recognized, just raise your hand using the raise hand function, mute and unmute when acknowledged by whoever's chairing at the time. But with that, I will invite, as to say, President Lisa Bagaluri to get us started today. Lisa?
Thanks so much, Doug. It's good to see the faces that are on here. We've been apart for so long, I forget what everybody looks like. So it's good to see everybody. So just on behalf of the Board of Directors and staff, I want to welcome all member organizations to the call tonight. When we met last, we were hopeful that we would be able to be playing and back on the field by this time and have the restrictions reduced. But with the increase of variants and cases across the province, will remain under the current health order restrictions until at least May 10th. What we do know is that we must continue to see cases decline and the rollout of vaccines to increase in order to see competition. While we appreciate you do not want another reminder to continue to do your part, that is the only solution at this time. We are confident that the return to games will happen this outdoor season, but at this time we don't know when. We'll continue to work with the business response team, our sport colleagues, and with members to ensure we are ready when restrictions are lessened. In the meantime, after a long winter, we hope that members that are in training are happy to be outdoors and that their teammates under current circumstances. Thank you to everyone for the participation tonight. These calls are an important part of the process to returning to play. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Nicole to go over the agenda for tonight.
Thanks, Lisa. So tonight we're going to talk about return to soccer plan updates that we made last week and some further clarifications that we received today. We're going to talk a bit about outdoor registration and how that's going to work with the outdoor stimulus funding. We're going to talk about referee registration and the laws of the game refresher coming up, the Toyota National Championships, the new Canada Soccer Coach Education Program, also the club licensing 2021 intake, and the Circle K Active Start Fest applications. Eden will be running the logistics tonight, so if you run into any technical issues, you can just send her a message in the chat there. If you have a question, you can just include it so everyone can see it. So first off, the return to soccer plan. So we know that the current public health order is in place until at least May 10th. The last update we made to our plan was on April 16th. And we also added a new frequently asked questions on that day. And those frequently asked questions will be updated this Friday with the information that I'm going to clarify tonight. So the first one, support parents for young players. We received confirmation today that they are included in the 8. So this contradicts what we received a couple weeks ago. I know this is going to cause some headaches for some of you that planned to have them outside of the 8, but they're now included. The solution to that would be you can still have 2 groups of 8 on a field. You would just have to have them 5 meters apart. So you could still have the same coach. It would just be 5 meters between those 2 groups, and the coach has to wear a medical grade mask if they're going between groups. Parents are also included in the 30 total on the field. On Friday, we communicated that we weren't sure if they were or not, but we received confirmation that they are. And you also don't have to have parents on the field with young players. It is a recommendation that we have made in phase 1 of the plan, as some of those young players definitely have trouble social distancing. So that's the purpose of the parents out there. But that is up to your organization, whether you choose to use parents or not. Like I just mentioned, coaches can move between 2 groups if they wear a medical grade mask. So it's still, as we communicated earlier, up to a maximum of 30 players, including the support parents on the field. We communicated to BRT how that leaves plenty of space for social distancing on a full-size pitch. But they said this is the rule for the time being, and they're worried about people congregating in parking lots or entrances or things like that, but it is something that they're going to review with health going forward. Smaller fields might have less than 30 if you don't have the space to social distance. So your organization would need to determine that. And again, there must be at least 5 meters between the groups of 8. And your field operators may have stricter restrictions than what's in the reopened Saskatchewan plan. So just like those that had indoor, with outdoor, you need to consult with your facility operator to see if they have any specific guidelines for you, and you need to follow those as well. We also confirmed today that the maximum gathering size of 10, that's you've probably heard for public outdoor gatherings, also does apply to sports. So that means your training group should not go over the 10 people. So if you have 8 players, you should only have 2 coaches to that group. We talked about the field side spectators on the field. So the spectators at the field is still 30, but that needs to be used with discretion. You're responsible for managing your spectators. It's important to request minimal spectators at events. So I know many of you that I've talked to are requesting 1 parent per child. Some of you are requesting no parents for older children. And those spectators must social distance by 2 meters at all times if they're not in the same family. So you don't want 30 spectators all gathering in the same area. It should be, say, 1 per parent per group. It'd be 30 for the entire pitch. Travel. So right now, the government strongly discourages non-essential travel in our province, in and out of Regina, unless absolutely necessary. So your organization should keep this in mind. If you have players traveling to play with you, especially if they're from out of province, you should use your discretion. We discourage having out of province players play with you at this time, unfortunately. But if a player is 20 minutes down the road and you live in a small town and they don't have soccer where they live, you can use your discretion there. And coaching resources for contactless training. We got a few requests if we have any drill ideas for the contactless training. And we're going to provide some of those in this Friday's communication to help you out. So an update on Bill 23, the Emergency Planning Act Amendment Bill is before legislature. It passed the second reading on April 19th, and it's scheduled for the final reading prior to the end of spring, so near the end of May. And this new legislation will confirm and clarify protections for individuals and organizations from litigation based on COVID-19 transmission if there's been good faith compliance with emergency orders and other applicable laws. And then where there's gross negligence liability protection obviously would not apply. And similar laws have recently been passed in Ontario and British Columbia. So we will continue to keep the membership posted on this as we receive more information. Return to play stimulus funding for the 2021 outdoor registration. So as we mentioned earlier, when we released the stimulus package, up to $150,000 will be distributed to eligible member organizations that offer programming this outdoor season. And this funding is to be applied as a credit to your outdoor registrations. So this means that we're going to do the registration process a little bit differently than we have done in the past. So we're not collecting fees and then just refunding them back to you. So June 7th is still the registration deadline for the registrar report. So you will submit your registrar report to Eden for all registrations received up until May 31st on that date. And then between June 8th and 14th, we will confirm your eligibility and apply a credit if you receive one, and update you with the registration amount owing. And then by June 21st will be the final and the firm deadline to submit your registration payment. So we would need your payment by that date or the credit will not apply. I know that was a lot of information. So we will open it up for questions. You can either raise your hand or you can put them in the chat there.
I have a question about the credit that you receive back. Is there anything for later on in the summer for, say, the July, August portion of the season?
So we're waiting till after the first deadline because it's only offered to people that offer outdoor. It's not based on your registration numbers this year, but you have to offer outdoor soccer this year to receive it. So it will just be a one-time credit. Tegan, you have your hand up?
Hi, Nicole. I am wondering about the players plus parents being over 8. And you had said it is not required, but if it was part of our return to soccer submission to Soccer Canada, does that mean we now have to split our groups of 8 that include their parents?
No, you can revise your plan, and we're understanding, Canada Soccer's understanding that your plans are dynamic. You could, I don't think it would affect your risk score, but if you're worried that it will, you could go back and complete the tool and see if you get a different score. But I don't think it will make a difference in that. And we don't require that you do that.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole, I got Hugh with a hand up and Kelly in the chat. I believe Kelly was had the chat up first, and then if you want to go to Hugh on the phone.
Sure. So Kelly is asking, are 3-on-2 drills half field allowed if we ensure players stay 2 meters apart at all times? I don't really
Nicole,
know.
I can take that.
Yeah.
So Kelly, the current guidelines specify that there must be 3 meters of physical distance between participants at all times. So the size of the field is, provided that there isn't more than 30 participants on the field with 5 meters of spacing in between the designated sort of groups of 8. There's a multitude of different activities that you can do, but the players must stay 3 meters apart at all times.
Thanks, Raheem. Hugh?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
So just going back to their recent decisions here on the 30 on the field, are we still pushing that issue? Because it doesn't make sense to me that we can have the number we had in indoor on a large field and now we're decreased, yet the airflow is there. Recent studies, even in Europe, by football organizations show the transmission is so low in outdoor. I'm just starting to get concerned about the health and well-being of our players, of our kids mentally. We're actually doing a mental training session with a mental health professional right now with our 15s and 18s, and some of the stuff we're getting out of that is not what we want to be hearing kids asking.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, are we pushing them on what their basis of that decision is? Like what, we consistently hear them tell us about the science, and I'm all behind that. But what science are they telling us to defend that position?
Yeah, and they indicated that it is up for review. That some of these things for outdoor probably still need to be refined, like as they were for indoor. And Raheem did a really good job communicating our needs and how right now indoor you can have more people than you can outdoor on a full-size field. So we've brought it up to them a couple times and they reassured us a couple times that we're looking at it. So I do believe them in that. I think it will just like with indoor, we didn't have all the answers right away. I think that's one that they are going to reconsider going forward, but we'll communicate that information as it comes.
I think, and one other piece that I want to touch on is I know that they may probably look to start ball up or something like that before us in game situations, because they'll say the social distancing and stuff. I want us to be, as a provincial association, on about what sports and how they're going to open them up, because there was no social distancing at girls softball last year when my head players playing and coming back to me telling me what was going on. So it's an issue I think that our provincial association may have to ruffle the feathers of another provincial association. But I know that if ball goes ahead and they go ahead as they did last year, we're just going to consistently lose numbers to them because they can play games.
Doug, I saw you unmute there.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that, and we don't really understand the rationale, and I can be honest with you that I don't think they understand the rationale around the 30 on a large, outdoor soccer pitch when there's more kids allowed indoors. But there's a process they're working through to get themselves ready for outdoor, and the gathering sizes in this world of variants are much different than they were in indoor, and that's very much an unsatisfying answer. So, but we are absolutely pressing that point for sure. And at the end of the day, all we can do is try to understand the guidelines, be ahead of the guidelines if that's an opportunity for us, and make sure we get them out to you as fast as we can. And we appreciate all your comments and questions on all those things.
Any follow-up here?
No, I hope to see some changes, and the ball one's a big one for me. And that's the only people that can speak to that are you guys at a provincial level. So we need that support, because last year it was a gong show.
Yeah, and last year they certainly were clear, Hugh, to us that ball was treated as what they called a non-contact sport, and soccer was not. And of course that relaxed over summer. And so I can't speak specifically what your experiences were, but obviously one of the things that everybody can do and is responsible to do is, if you see breaches of the guidelines, you're certainly eligible to make sure that those are known to people. And obviously people need to step up and make sure they follow the guidelines, and that's where we'll put our energy and make sure we do that. So thanks, Hugh.
Hey, Nicole, you had a question with Jolene. Her hand is up.
Hi there. I would echo some of the comments around ball. We've watched the ball program operate and coincide beside our soccer club, and I would definitely consider it as in close contact as soccer would be. So yeah, I do advocate that our provincial association lobby in the same type of support as ball has had in the past. But that wasn't my question. My questions are, I have two of them. The first one is the ball club the soccer club that I'm involved in is on a bordering community. So we're located in Langenberg, and we're probably we are 20 minutes down the road from Manitoba, where we have had players play with us for the last decade. I guess, my concern is they're great little athletes. They've been part of our program, but I wasn't quite clear when we say use your discretion. I guess I'm looking for clarification, what the provincial regulations, I feel like things change continuously. So if they have said in black and white what it is, so that it helps us make our decision. I don't want our club getting into any type of trouble. But obviously we want them to come play and join our club as they have in the past, because there is no soccer club there. My second question is, can you provide some clarification around face masks? Are they or are they not required for us to play? Because if the provincial regulations or if the provincial powers that be suggest that we don't need them, we won't be likely wearing them. And there too, I don't want that coming back to haunt us. So I was hoping you could help with those two questions.
I'll answer the easy one first. Masks aren't required for players, but they do recommend them. So, but they're not required. They are required for coaches and any on-field support that you have. So if you have those support parents or anyone else that's a support person on the field, they do have to wear them, but the players do not. As for travel, it is unfortunately not black and white. There is no travel bans in our province. They just strongly discourage it. So that would be our message too, that we strongly discourage it. But there's no order that you can't travel interprovincially right now. It's not restricted. You could ask the business response team if you do want a clear answer, but I don't think it would be the answer that you're looking for. But if you wanted to be certain, I would recommend reaching out to them directly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other messages in the chat even?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Well, perfect. I will hand it over to Raheem.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole. So first off, just wanted to let it, just to get back to with everyone regarding referees. So, it's time to register your referees. We do hope, and we are hopeful that games will return. And when they do, referees are an integral part of that. And just a reminder that referee fees have been reduced by 50%. So please get all of your referees in your organization starting to register through the RAMP portal. There will also be a referee laws of the game refresher. It's going to take place on Wednesday, April 28th at 7:30 p.m. The link to register is available through the last week's SSA communication, or you can contact ccd@sassoccer.com. It takes approximately an hour and a half for the session. The focus will be on the 2020-2021 modifications to the IFAB laws of the game. We fielded some questions about club nationals, and so we will be engaging everyone, and a survey will be sent out this Friday as a part of the communication. So there'll be a link in the communication this Friday to gauge interest of member organizations for participation in the 2021 Toyota Club National Championships. This is to gauge interest, it's not a commitment. So I think that that's an important difference or a differentiation just to highlight. So, if you are considering it, just understand what the expected commitments of participating in a national competition would be. So if that's not something that you would be willing to do, then, when you're deciding on whether or not you're interested or putting in your answers, please factor that in. COVID restrictions may impact the possibility of the event. So that could be either from the host. So, the U15 is going to be in Ottawa. Ottawa or Quebec or BC may have their own provincial restrictions at that moment in time that may prevent the competition from happening, or there may be restrictions in place here in Saskatchewan that there is no inter-provincial travel. So COVID dependent is obviously a factor, but assuming that COVID is not a factor at that moment in time, that's how we'd ask you to fill out the survey. And then also the format and the competition format leading to club nationals may be impacted by the Reopen Saskatchewan plan. So, that could be, if we're back to playing games intra-provincially, we could end up with a PSL. If not, there could be some type of competition tournament, as a hypothetical at the end of August. that may lead to a shorter timeline between, the competition itself and traveling to club nationals. So as is the case, and as I think we've said consistently for over a year now, things are fluid, things are changing. I think one of the comments was that the guidelines continue to change, and they will continue to change. So I can appreciate that there may be some, nuanced questions around it, but we may not have the answer specifically to it. And then, of course, the competition, we would expect Canada Soccer to provide a fair bit of notice whether or not the championships are going ahead in 2021. Last week, Canada Soccer announced an update to their coaching education program. So a couple of key distinctions have been made. Courses like Active Start, Fundamentals, Learn to Train, and Soccer for Life are now a part of the Canada Soccer Grassroots Coach Education Program. Courses from the C license and above, so C license to children's license, or C license youth license goalkeeper, or youth license, C license to the B or A license, are now a part of the Canada Soccer Advanced Coach Education Program. And with that, new Canada Soccer courses will be a part of it. So there's now a module called Coaching Soccer in Canada. So through the online system that will house the theory, so the format is a blended one where the theoretical component is now completed online. There was a lot of overlap between Active Start, Fundamentals, Learn to Train, Soccer for Life. So certain modules actually appeared in almost across the board in those different workshops and courses. So the Coaching Soccer in Canada, once you've completed that, you will never have to redo that. And that will actually alleviate some of the time for participants when they're doing their online theory, and not have them doing the exact same modules over and over again. So to give an idea of the delivery format, the online theory is housed through the Canada Soccer Smarter You platform. Organizations or individuals can buy the codes, and you effectively register, put your code in, and then you've got your Active Start, Fundamentals, Learn to Train, and Soccer for Life. Once you've completed that, you then sign up for the on-field training through your member organization's registration platform. To give an idea of some of the changes, previously a Soccer for Life course was 16 hours. A Learn to Train course was 16 hours, a Fundamentals course was 8 hours, and an Active Start course was 4. So the time, there's quite a bit of time savings now. The Soccer for Life in total between online theory and on-field training is now going to be 6 hours. The same for Learn to Train. The Fundamentals is 4.5, and the Active Start is 3.5. So the transition to the blended format will be, I think, a really good step going forward. And it's also modernizing with the times and technology usage. So the information on this slide is quite a bit, but we will have this as a part of, and this is also available on our website, or the frequently asked questions within our website. So this will also be a part of the Friday communication. But just to give everyone an idea again, organizations will be able to buy like a batch of codes if they would like to, and then they can distribute that to their coaches, or individual coaches will have also the option to purchase a code for themselves. And then from that point, you go into the Smarter You platform, you enter in your code, and you'll be able to go through the theoretical component. And then the club licensing program, we did a recording of the webinar, or the workshop for that. So that should be available on the YouTube, but the declaration of interest form is now open for 2021. May 1st, the applications for QSP, PTSO 1 and 2 will be open. The submission deadline for this year will be July 31st. And we will then send out communication to all of the member organizations that have submitted their applications by September 16th. And then there will be a 6-week process for resubmission of information, and then we hope to communicate out to the member organizations and submit our recommendations to Canada Soccer for by December 15th for the 2021 intake of the club licensing program. Nicole, back to you.
Thanks, Raheem. So the Circle K Active Start Soccer Fest applications are now open. So this is a Canada Soccer program. Participating organizations receive a festival hosting participation package, which includes certificates and promotional giveaways and things like that. So these are still possible during COVID. You just have to follow the current restrictions, and the deadline to apply for that is June 1st. And I was going to see if there's anyone on the call that has hosted one that would like to share their experience with the group. I think a few of you have in the past.
Jason's on, and I know JJ has hosted one.
Jason, do you want to share your experience with us?
I will be happy to. I didn't know how to raise my hand, so that's why I didn't ask the question earlier. Yeah, we've had it quite a few years, and it's been a lot of fun. Very well received by the entire membership. The challenge obviously will be with the COVID environment, the numbers, because there's sometimes you get quite a few kids out there, right? 20, 30, 40 kids at a time if you set them up in circuits. We've had a lot of success and a lot of great feedback from it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions as to, we've done dribbling, passing, shooting. For the older kids, we've been hitting the ball into garbage pails and stuff like that, right? For a target practice. So a lot of different things you can do with that. A lot of fun.
And what did you receive from Canada Soccer, Jason?
You receive some tattoos, stickers. Everyone gets a certificate, so whoever's organizing it has to sign the certificate, give it out. Then there's one group they usually give you based on how many people you are guessing are going to come. One group got some bags. I think that was our under nines we gave the bags to. And then up front they give you $125 to help get it organized. And then if you take pictures of the event, then you have to do a follow-up application or follow-up form and send those pictures in, and then they send you another $125. So that helps offset some of the costs depending on what you're doing with your budget and stuff.
Perfect. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, so not much more work than you would normally put on for a wind up, and it's kind of neat for the kids to see Canada Soccer's logo on different things. Does anyone have any questions for me or Jason?
Or me.
Or Raheem. We won't leave Raheem out.
I see a question in the chat. Will on-field training be happening this year? So Jade, I'm assuming that is in reference to coaching education. So until the physical distancing measures are removed, there won't be in-person coaching education. But for similar to last year, if someone has completed the online theory, that would be acceptable until the point where we obviously have the opportunity to be in person and in a group. The priority initially would be to try and just get everyone and all organizations back up and running as soon as possible. But we would be looking to offer, coaching should the restrictions allow for it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm going to move along here and we'll stop one more time at the end for any final questions about anything that we have. So next meeting is tentatively May 11th. So that's the day after the current public health order ends. We say tentative because if it gets extended, we may extend this date just like we did last time. So depending on the government guidelines, that date might move, but watch your member communications for more information. So upcoming events and deadlines, April 28th is the referee laws of the game refresher that Raheem was talking about. May 1st is the MAP grant deadline. That deadline is firm. I'm going to try to go through the applications as soon as possible after, so you know what you have for spending. Again, May 11th, the tentative member discussion date. And then June 1st is the deadline to get those Circle K Active Start applications in. Dave, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hey guys. Sorry, I should have asked this in that earlier part. It fit a little better, but what's the latest date under consideration for starting and running for, I guess, starting and going until for PSL season? And I guess also what's the drop dead? Like, is there a drop dead date in mind that it'll get to that point and that it just can't go anymore?
So Dave, thanks for the question. The PSL as a league versus having other provincial competitions, we would try and make sure that if we do have the possibility of running something, that we will this year. We know that participants definitely want competition. I think we heard Hugh mention that from QC as well, that competition is an important part for participation at older ages. So we don't have an end drop dead date right now. If Club Nationals were to go ahead, we would try our best to find a competition format that would allow, if we had multiple groups that wanted to participate at Club Nationals, that would allow for some type of competition format to, provided the reopen guidelines, of course, allow for competition. But we would try and find a mechanism for that to happen. So we're going to do our best to be as flexible as we can, and try and find a way to engage our participants as the summer progresses, and hopefully the guidelines are lessened.
Thanks, Raheem. Oh, Jason has a question.
Yeah, I can't figure out where to get that friggin' hand.
It's
Unbelievable. So here's my question that I just, is the BRT, it might be a couple part question. Is the BRT, they're obviously giving you direction as to what we're allowed to do, but have we put forth a proposal to them to say, we've got one field, we have two fields, we have three fields, whatever it happens to be, can we fit X amount of participants on? Because as an organization, I would have like 60 in a U5 group, 60 in a U7 group on separate days. Other organizations might have 150 or 200 kids out there in a normal year. Is there something we can put together as a provincial organization to say, this is what a full field looks like? And when we do mini programs for U5, U7, and then into U9 half fields and U11s, this is how many people we can fit or we would need to fit, and then help them kind of build a basis around that, like an idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Nicole,
similar.
I can take that one. So we have communicated and we communicate frequently with BRT, Jason. So we are doing our best to provide the education and some of the, let's say, nuance behind soccer, for example, if they don't have a strong soccer understanding or background. But the point is certainly being made to them, potentially multiple times today. I feel kind of bad, but about, full field soccer only happens at certain ages, and a large percentage of our participants use smaller size fields. And so, a full field may work from a logistic standpoint, and I can certainly understand and appreciate that there is a substantive amount of different industry that they're trying to all manage at the same time, but highlight some of the nuance within soccer to try and provide them with a bit more clarity on what is reasonable and possible to try and fit into what the provincial strategy is for reopening, or the Reopen Saskatchewan plan. So that has been communicated to them. And then one aside is, obviously we hope that as things trend better in the coming weeks, that the restrictions are loosened, and as they are loosened or lessened, we would also see some of the guidelines and restrictions reflect that. And once we get to, if it is hypothetically, 30 per half, for example, with 5 meters of spacing, as it was at the end of last year, then you would have that potential capacity of 60 on a field. But at this moment in time, as they reiterated, it is 30. And as Nicole has said, they are aware that, and it was expressed that some of the challenges between what we were able to do from a capacity standpoint indoor to outdoor is quite a bit of a drop off, and they acknowledge that, and they're aware of that, and I think it's a part of their conversations moving forward.
Okay, no, that's great, and thank you very much for doing that. It's just sometimes when we're sitting here and we're thinking as a club, right, trying to get it all organized, it possesses its own challenges for us. But I thank you for all you guys are doing.
No worries. I can appreciate the challenges, Jason. Like honestly, when guidelines and restrictions and rule and regulations change or are modified, and even just to speak to what Nicole said earlier about parents not being included in the 8 to parents being included in the 8, that's also just a part of what they have to do as well. So as things are getting updated on their end, sometimes the questions we ask 2 or 3 weeks later can change as well. And it's not an easy situation for anyone involved, and I can genuinely say that they're doing their best. And the fact that they want to speak with us and they want to have conversation and they're willing to listen speaks volumes to the relationship that's being built.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Liam. I also just want to jump in and thank everybody for their patience. This is a hard process. It's so many logistical things that you folks have to go through to try to plan. Of course, each week we're encouraging you to be ready and to plan, etc. And the reality is it's just a moving target all the time. So we are talking to BRT as often as we can, and we're trying to make sure that we use our influence to get them to be understanding what soccer is and be ready and available to open up sport when they transition in. I think it'll probably be a transition. And maybe a month ago, we thought we were actually going to start with local games. But I think we'll probably, who knows, but we'll probably start with some kind of expanded training first to see how things go. And they'll monitor numbers. And then it's likely then we hope obviously that they'll start with some maybe limited competition and then hopefully expand to more competition. And of course, as the number of vaccines going into arms increases and hopefully the ICU numbers go down or hold. And of course, the variant numbers is the big red flag for everybody. And you guys all know that stuff, but we are working on it, and we do have a good relationship with BRT. And so keep sending us your questions and thoughts, and we very much appreciate all of that, guys.
Any final questions? I don't see anything in the chat here. So yeah, like Doug said, keep sending me your questions. I'll do my best to answer them, or I'll try to find the answers for you. And you can also, if you need a timely response, you can of course always contact the BRT as well. So with that, do you have any final words, Doug or Raheem? Or
yeah, but just we'll invite Lisa if she wants to get in at the end and say a few thoughts as well. But I just want to thank everybody for their patience, their due diligence. We had very high hopes a month ago that we'd be talking about games being played at this point in time, and we hope that maybe in a few weeks that will be the case. But we don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, and we'll keep working on it. And we appreciate your patience and all your work to make soccer possible this summer in whatever form that may look like. So, Lisa, do you have any thoughts or anything before we wind up?
No, you've said everything, Doug. I just appreciate everybody's contributions and questions, because It helps stimulate everybody else's the conversation that we're having here tonight. So, and thanks again for the patience. Can't thank everyone enough.
So thank you, Lisa. Thanks for all the member organization reps that were on the line. Want to thank Nicole for taking the lead tonight with Raheem, Eden in the background, and we thank all of you for all the work you're doing on the ground. And let's keep in touch and let's keep everybody safe. And really, that's the solution. If we all keep case numbers low province-wide, then we know the government wants to allow sport, and we just hope that we get there sooner than later. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Good night, thanks.